I haven't had a partner for a decade, so there hasn't been that
Wait,
to
really?
talk about. Really?
Okay. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
So I should warn you, I was a therapist before I did this.
I sensed that. It's starting to get hot here, so let me take this off.
Hi friends, Wilson Cruz from 13 Reasons Why, My So-Called Life, Star Trek, and Rent doesn't flinch when I ask him why he opted out of dating. Okay, maybe he flinches a little bit, but I love how open he is with me, and I think you will too. Check it out. A lot of people ask you the same exact things because, for good reason, because you've had groundbreaking roles and you've been a groundbreaker and you do so much, for the LGBTQ community, and you always have. And it's for good reason that you're asked these questions. But at the same time, I feel like not only those questions make up you and who you are. So I'm a little interested in other things too.
Please.
So what don't people normally ask you about that you're surprised that they don't?
Well, Party of Five.
Okay. Is this the first time in like 10 to 15 years?
I can't even remember the last time
Really?
somebody asked me about it. Well, because it was the last season, people forget I was even on it.
Right. And there's so much more to talk about too.
I don't know. I don't know.
Do people ask you about your life much? Like your personal life?
Yeah. I mean, they've always asked, I've always talked openly about my relationship with my family in terms of coming out and their trajectory of acceptance and all of that. So I've talked about that. I haven't had a partner for a decade, so there hasn't been that
to
talk about. Really?
Okay. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
So I should warn you, I was a therapist before I did this.
I sensed that. It's starting to get hot here, so let me take this off.
You couldn't have timed that better. That's 10 years. All right, let's go there. So 10 years. Is that was that a decision you made, or is that something that has kind of just happened?
So I was living here in 2010. Is that right? Yes, I was living here in 2010, and I had moved to New York to be closer to my brother. He was going through a hard time. And I came here to do theater, and nothing was happening. And I got this job offer to go work at GLAAD. And I hadn't worked a lot. I was going through a real lull in my career. And GLAAD came to me and they were like, well, if you don't think there are enough parts for you out there, then maybe you should do something about it. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So I went to work at GLAAD in order to have the difficult conversations with studios and networks about creating more opportunities for LGBT characters and actors on television, especially trans people of color, especially actors of color. So it was for the community, but I got something out of it too. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Because there were a dearth of real opportunities that weren't stereotypical roles. Anyway, all of that to say, I was here. I went back to LA. I worked at GLAAD for 2 years, and I felt the clock ticking.
Okay.
And I had a conversation with myself where I basically said, you have all these plans to do all these amazing things. You're running out of time. And so I put romance on the back burner because I had been in a long-term relationship that was terrible. And I just kind of focused on creating opportunities for myself.
So you're talking about work opportunities then?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what you were thinking.
Yeah. And so I left GLAAD after 2 years. I put myself back out there and I went right into a series with Octavia Spencer called Red Band Society. And then I just started working consistently, thank God.
Yeah.
And work really took precedence. And then when Star Trek came along, which moved me not only to another city, but to another country, and how much time that takes. It takes 9 to 10 months to do an entire season.
That's a long, long time.
It is a long time. And then we had a pandemic, so I wasn't hooking up during the pandemic. So suddenly I've accumulated 10 years almost.
So, all right.
I've dated.
You dated. So what happened when you dated?
Just nobody good enough to break through your other
it
things?
just wasn't, just didn't work. Lovely people who actually became friends.
So you dated, because you started out by saying, I haven't had a partner in 10 years.
Yeah.
But you have dated,
Yeah.
but are we talking about like one date?
No, I dated someone for a while in Toronto, but like a few months.
Okay.
And then there was someone who literally went in and extracted my heart from my chest and threw it on the floor and like crushed it. And that was right before the pandemic. And I was like, well, I'm good for a minute.
So you trusted him at first, or did you kind of have a little bit of a sense of this may not
Oh
work
no,
out?
it was one of those, like, I'm all in, you're going to be my husband. And like in my head, I'm thinking, oh, this is the person.
What happened?
He had a boyfriend the whole time.
Oh no.
Ta-da. So
How'd you find out?
he eventually told me, because he saw that I was getting serious, right? So he had to tell me about his lie. Anyway, so yes, I've been
But
single.
that was tough. And then right before the pandemic, and then I can only imagine all the feelings and
yes
at once about that. But also then it's like, do you trust yourself after that? Like, well,
No.
that's a problem.
Yes.
Even though, of course, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with him.
Yes. I mean, I have to take some responsibility,
Mhm.
right? I let myself get there so quickly, you know what I mean? I tend to lead with my heart, and maybe I need to lead with my head a bit more. To balance
I know,
that
but I
out.
hate to say that that's a good way to go, though, because in love, you really should be leading with your heart, not your head. Right? So you should. So you don't really want to crush that. But I know it's a balancing act, maybe a little bit of.
It is. And, you know, I still am going back and forth between Toronto and the States. And we were locked up in Toronto this time, right? Like there was no getting out when there was a 2-week quarantine.
You were quarantined, basically.
Oh, yeah. We could not leave.
Oh, so it was a bubble.
I was in a bubble of my own because we weren't allowed to interact with cast members outside of set because they wanted to minimize any opportunity of infection. So being the single uncle of the cast, I spent a lot of 2020 and 2021 on my own.
Oh, geez. So in a hotel room?
No, I had an apartment.
Oh.
An apartment. I had a 2-bedroom apartment because I thought, oh, you know, I'm going to have my parents visit at some point, or my brother's going to come.
Right.
I ended up turning it into a gym, the guest room.
That's tough, though. I mean, the pandemic was tough on everybody.
Everybody
And
has
you're a
something.
social person.
I am.
You're a love person.
I am.
You're a people person.
I am. And that was really hard for me.
Did it take a toll, like, even after? Like, did
Yes. I feel I'm definitely a different social person than I was before.
How?
I don't know. I think I'm enjoying my time at home a little too much. Like I'm back in New York. I have been going to the theater. I am, interacting with friends. I keep seeing this bee or
What
this
is it?
hornet
Oh,
on
is
your
it all
foot,
around
and
me?
it's on your foot.
Oh, I'm like, no. I try to just, but is it staying with me the whole time?
No, it's gone now.
Oh, okay.
It was. I didn't want it to sting your foot.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
And so I am reacclimating myself to being a social person.
Okay.
But-
so you enjoy your downtime at home alone more. So you
Yeah,
live alone then, I guess, right?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm relearning. That's what I guess I should say. I'm relearning how to be in the world again. Because I had to convince myself that being alone was a good thing for a while.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You know?
Yes, that's
The one thing I'm not crazy about right now is like going to a club or a bar. Like that's where I can't. I'll go to a theater. I'll go to a concert. I'll go to a jazz club.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go to somebody's birthday party. But for some reason, I cannot bring myself to be like, ooh, ooh, back in the club. I just can't do it. Also, I'm almost 50. Maybe I shouldn't be going to the clubs anymore.
I think one of my favorite expressions is you're not too old and it's not too late.
I do find myself looking for like, 90s night at some bar that I was like, well, maybe I'll go to that. Because now I go to the club and I'm like, I don't know who this is singing. Who is this?
Right.
person that sounds like the last person who was singing.
It's a different world.
Yeah.
So
I'm
feel
literally
like,
an old man now. I hear myself. I'm like,
well,
oh,
are
wow.
you though? Are
No,
you?
I'm
No.
not. I guess what I'm saying, I guess what I feel is I feel like before the pandemic, I felt part of the youth culture still
Okay.
in a weird way.
Uh-huh.
And now I see, oh, I'm not really.
I gotcha.
You know?
So it was a separation, a division almost.
Yeah, maybe.
A line was drawn without
I feel like I
realizing
need to be an elder statesman, you know, a supporter with some wisdom to impart to my younger cohorts.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And maybe that's because they've been coming to me more, right? Like that I've so many of younger actors and performers and people I've been in relation with are coming to me with
Like for
questions
advice?
and yeah,
Okay, so this is what, like castmates and whatnot?
just in general,
Just people
Yeah,
in your life.
some reason people think I'm wise.
I don't know why they wouldn't think that though.
I mean, I'm still learning too, right?
Yeah,
Like, I
everybody
feel like I'm
is.
still like
And if
figuring
you
it
don't
out.
feel like that, you're not, then you're definitely not learning. And that we should
True.
kind of be learning our whole lives, I feel like.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. I don't ever want to get to the point where I feel like I'm finished, I'm done, I know it all. I don't think I
No.
want to be around anybody who feels that way either.
No.
Right?
Yeah, because then you're done. I'm
Right.
not done. I'm so far from done.
Same. So when you say you're learning how to be social again,
Yeah.
so like what do you mean? Like what exactly, like do you feel weird around other people sometimes, or do you not know how to get yourself out? Like what?
Oh, I think it's what's a few people I know are also going through, which is, I think I think I watch myself more, right? Like because after spending so much time alone, I think you end up being very self-aware, right? Maybe too self-aware, self-conscious.
Self-conscious, right? It moves from self-aware to self-conscious.
Right. And I am trying to let go of some of that self-consciousness.
Okay.
I think I'm trying to
Shed
some of that. And
Yeah.
I think it was protective,
Yeah.
you know? But I think it's a direct result of just spending 9 months
Yeah.
almost
And
every
I
day.
think that will revert. I think that will reverse.
Sure. I hope so.
With over time, I think.
Yes.
But I do feel like, I think a lot of us were kind of expecting that once it ended, it hasn't ended, which is part of the problem.
Yes, that is part of the problem.
Right. That everybody would go like, I heard a lot of people saying, oh, it's going to be the roaring 20s again, and everybody's going to want to be going out and whatever. And I feel like maybe July was like that a little
Yeah,
bit.
and then we got snapped right back because
Right.
of Delta. Yeah.
Right. And then, so that was like, I actually look back on like the end of June and the beginning of July as a wonderfully free, short period of time where everybody had hope again.
I was in Canada, so
Oh, okay.
except for the 2 weeks that I got to come to the States, but it was a very different experience there.
Okay.
You know, they were very strict, especially in Ontario. You know, basically the only things that were open were grocery stores and gas stations and dispensaries. Thank God.
The necessities.
Yeah. So I hear what you're saying. And, this is the other thing, too, is I think this is the first time I'm saying this public out loud. I was really mad at people. I was really angry. I expected more of us as a people. Maybe it was just my naivete, but I was really disappointed in the fact that people weren't getting vaccinated after all of the hard work that these scientists and essential workers were doing and sacrifices that people were making all around the world, and we couldn't simply just get the jab. Like, it was really disconcerting to me. And so, that also, also we were going through that election. Like, I was in Toronto watching it from outside of the country, watching January 6th play out in front of me, like not knowing, honestly, while that was happening, if I was ever going to be able to come back to my country. Like, that's how bad I thought it was. And it could have been that bad. So, I think all of that stuff accumulates and takes a toll.
It does. It stays
and you're like,
with you.
I'm going to keep myself safe by keeping myself separate.
Right.
But in the long run, that's not an answer.
No, that's not an answer.
So that's why I'm reacclimating myself
Yes.
to the human race.
Right.
Next up, I ask Wilson about his My So-Called Life co-star, Claire Danes, and you won't believe what he tells me. Click up here or click the link in the description below and you can watch it right now. If you want to listen to our big 1-hour podcast, click on the description below. You'll find that too.